Now we're going to discuss the types of budgeting. So even in our daily lives, lagi naman tayo nagba-budget. Sa bahay, probably si nanay yung nagba-budget or maybe even si tatay, nagba-budget sila. So in business organization, budgeting is very important. So here, we're going to discuss the different types of budget, which have the bearing either directly or indirectly on the whole budgetary process. So first we have the cash budget. So it reflects the expected cash receipts, meaning cash na pabalik sa atin or pumapasok sa negosyo, such as cash sales. Of course, every item that we sell or we sold to customers, babalik sa atin yung pera. Next, we have the collection of accounts or and notes receivable, accounts receivable, sales of other assets, proceeds of borrowings, and also from the cash disbursement. So, if may pumapasok na cash sa atin, meron ding cash na lumalabas. So, example of cash disbursement or payment of operating expenses, such as utilities, water, the electricity, interest, taxes, and loans. The cash budget should reflect on the project cash balance. Let's say, for example, ilan yung lumabas, ilan yung bumalik. So, ilan yung balancing cash or ilan yung natitirang cash, cash on hand, or even cash on bank. So, you have to reflect everything on the project cash balance. The cash budget, or also known as cash forecast. So, planning, it is, as a review, planning is equivalent to forecasting and projections. So it is a statement of firms' plan inflows and outflows, which is we have in our statement of cash flow. So the cash inflows and outflows of operating, investing, and financing activities. Next, we have the sales budget. It is the budget that reflects expected number of units to be sold based on forecasts, even like in the previous performance in previous years, and other marketing variables. So performance from previous years, let's say for example in 2019, from January to March, let's say you have a school supply business, January to March, units sold previous year, 2019, let's say 100,000 units sold. From April to June, units sold would be 500,000, let's say, because opening up classes. So that would be your basis. If considering, for example, walang COVID this year, so that makes the other marketing variables. Since nagkaroon ng COVID this year, nagkaroon ng new normal, so marketing variables hindi considering the external environment, hindi nagkaroon ng klase. So, ibig sabihin, hindi magkakaroon ng 500 units sold compared last year. So, doon ka kukuha ng expected number units to be sold. So, iba-budget mo ilan ang magiging sales mo for this year. Base nga doon, for example, previous year's performance or even other marketing variables. So it is the most important account in financial statement. We always see sales at the top of our, I think, income statement. Andun siya sa, then less lang ng less ang operating cost, administrative expenses. So kaya siya naging most important account. Kasi sa kanya nanggagaling, balikan natin si cash budget, unang-una siya. So, receipts from cash sales. So, lahat ng pumapasok sa atin, nanggagaling kay expected nating magiging sales. Okay, next one would be the production budget. In production budget, so, shows cost of producing the product. So, let's say, for example, you have been in a business of making bags. Considering, for example, how much is your cost of production including direct materials, the fabric, the zipper, direct labor, yung mga mananahe, factory overhead, including electricity costs. Say for example, so ilan ang magiging budget mo for the whole year or maybe monthly, ilan yon, and then times mo sa 12 months. So iba-budget mo siya. And then a production budget provides information regarding number of units that should be produced. Let's say, for example, ang target ni sales for January to March ay binabaan niya ng konti. From last year na 100,000, gagawin lang niya this year na 90,000. So, doon magbe-base si production budget. Ilan ba ang kanyang number of units that should be produced? So, based on sales budget, kailangan may ma-produce daw siya na 90,000 units. So, the units to be produced. Okay? So, connect siya. Magkakadugtong sila. Overgiven a period of accounting period based on expected sales. Ayun, sinasabi ko nga. Okay, sales budget, expected number of units to be sold or expected sales, and target level of ending inventory. So, you always have ending inventories or at least buffer stock. Ilan ba ang kailangang buffer stock sa ating production? In case na magkaroon ng surge ng mga mamimili, kailangan meron tayong at least buffer stock. Next would be the operating budget. Number 4, it is a budget that reflects the sales and production budget. So overall, operation budget refers to the variable and fixed costs needed to run the operation of the company, but are not directly attributable to generation of sales. So not only sales budget, but also production budget. So overall, na operations ng business, including administrative costs, bayad kila admin staff, kila HR, kila managers, so everything. So, napapasok siya kay operating budget. Number 5 would be your financial budget. So, it's a budget that usually includes cash budget and the budgeted balance sheet. So, you have this one, cash budget, and the budgeted balance sheet. So, doon sa budgeted balance sheet, it is, as I well know, we already have seen balance sheet. So, projected balance sheet siya from the budgets na ma-generate nyo. Okay? So, papasok na si cash budget and si budgeted balance sheet kay financial budget. Okay? And then you have the capital budget, long-range budget that incorporates the major expenditure for plants and machineries. So, of course, if you have a bigger company, you have to balance or you have to get a capital balance for acquisition of plants and machineries and other equipments needed to run the business. And last one would be the master budget. So, overall budget of the business. So, from 1 to 6, kailangan makapasok siya kay master budget. Let's say, for example, pag pinag-plus-plus natin ang mga laman ng mga ito, umabot siya ng 2 million. So, your master budget would be 2 million for this year. Say, for example, for 2 years. Okay? So, those are the types of budget. Next, we have now the lesson 3, the preparation of projected financial statement. So, from the term itself, projected, or the forecasted financial statement, so it serves as a tool of the company to set overall goal of what company's performance or position will be. So, saan ang magiging stand ng iyong company for this year, or for the end of the year? Gaano ka dami ang sales, gaano ka dami ang ipoproduce. Okay, so with that, it sets target to control and monitor activities of the company. So, these are the following reports to be forecasted or projected. So, first we have the income statement, a statement of financial position, statement of cash flow. Okay, so it is these 3 that will be useful for us to project all the activities for us to control and monitor sa loob ng company. So, first we have the income statement. Isa-isahin muna natin itong tatlo. So, first, the income statement or the statement of comprehensive income. So, it is the new term or new title for this one. So, we have here the income and expenses. This is just a review from your accounting 1 or maybe in your accounting 2 para hindi siya maging masyadong redundant. So, you have your income, summary of increases in economic benefits during accounting period. So, lahat ng ma-generate ninyong income from sales na nabenta ninyo sa customers. So, a form of inflows or enhancement of assets or decreases of liabilities that results in equity. Then you have expenses, decrease in economic benefits. So, yung nababawas naman sa atin, sa company, in the form of outflows. So, lahat ng naging outflows na na-mention ko rin kanina, or depletion of assets, incurrences of liabilities. So, nadadagdagan si liabilities, nababawasan si asset. That results in decrease in equity. Okay. Income and expenses may be presented in statement of comprehensive income in different ways, in order to provide information relevant to economic decision making. So, using this, we can decide. So, as we mentioned in Module 1, decision-making activities in finance using the accuracy of accounting data. Okay? Next, this is just an example of historical income statement, which will be useful in forecasting. As I mentioned earlier in sales forecast, ito nga siya. So, nasa taas lagi si sales, kaya siya yung pinaka-importante. So, you have previous years net sales. So, this will be your basis. So, as we see, pataas naman ng pataas yung sales ni Beppo Company from 2015. Okay? So, you can also compute how much increase each year, and then maybe for 2020 you can generate how much increase in net sales will be. So later on we're going to compute for it. So next will be the next projected financial statement is the statement of financial position. The statement of financial position, new title for the balance sheet, is a structured financial statement that shows assets, liability, and equity. Okay, you already know this one. So, you have, isa-isahin lang din natin ang laman niya, asset, liabilities, and equity. Assets, resources controlled by an entity, result of past events from which future economic benefits are expected to flow to the entity. So, every asset, in Tagalog, lahat ng pagmamayari ninyo, okay, ng company na nagagamit in daily operations. The liabilities, obligations of the entity arising from past events. So, yung mga na-incur nating liabilities or in Tagalog, pagkakautang from previously in previous years or past events daw po. And then we have the equity. Residual interest in the assets of the entity after deducting all liabilities. Ilan yung matitira kapag binawasan ng liabilities si asset. Okay? Aside from asset, liabilities, and equity, we have the financial ratios, liquidity, solvency. Liquidity ratio, which we're going to discuss in the following modules. So, liquidity, let's just define this two or these other terms quickly in this module. Liquidity refers to the ability of business entity to settle current obligation. So, from the term itself, current obligation, you are just going to use the current asset, current liabilities to determine the liquidity. So, kaya bang bayaran ng company yung mga obligations from the current assets? So, current liabilities, kaya ba siyang mabayaran ng mga current assets? So, ganun yung pinakamaiksing paliwanag kay liquidity. Next, we have, okay, ito, due within 1 year from the date of settlement, from the date of the statement of financial position. On the other hand, we have the solvency. Ability of business to pay is long-term financial obligation. So, si liquidity pang short-term or from current obligations lang siya. Ito namang si solvency sa long-term financial obligations po siya. Okay, mature beyond 1 year from the date of statement of financial position. So, kaya bang bayaran ng ating mga non-current asset, yung mga ating mga non-current liabilities. Next would be the financial structure. Okay, indicates the amount of capital or resources financed by creditors and the amount provided by the owners. Okay, from finance from outside sources and the amount provided by the owners. Analysis of financial structure of the business focuses on the right side of the accounting equation. So you already know this equation. So asset equals liabilities plus equity or the owner's equity. Next, capacity for adaptation. So ability of the business to invest excess available resources or raise needed funds through borrowings without difficulty in times of need. Let's say, for example, you need to produce another set of machinery or equipments. So how would you raise resources? Easily. Okay? Without difficulty daw po. So, gaano kabilis maka-generate ng funds, or you could do mangungutang or other sources na makukuhanan aside from pangutang, or you will at least sell stocks of your company to generate additional capital. Okay, next, below is the historical statement of a financial position. So this is just an example. Okay, so you have the assets from 2015 to 2019 then of Beppo company, and the liabilities and equity. So as you can see, always magbabahalan si total asset and then si total liabilities and stockholders equity. Okay? So balansin naman siya 12,536,189. So from that, you could also use this historical data for your projection, for 2020 projection. And the last one would be the projected statement of cash flow. So statement or projected statement of cash flow. And just to clarify, I think hindi naman nabago sa inyo to. Nakita nyo naman na itong mga tables na ito, itong mga statement of financial position, itong income statements, in your accounting one. So, madali na lang ito para sa inyo. And you are already familiar with these terms naman. So, in finance, we're just going to use this data for projection and for analysis. So, yan. Balik tayo kay projected statement of cash flow. Ito rin sinasabi ko kanina, kay cash budget pa lang, the inflows and outflows in cash and cash equivalents of an entity during the period from operating, investing, and financing activities. So, I just show you here. Later pa pala yung table. So, first, though in the role of finance officer, you also have the operating decision, investing decision, financing decision. So, in external cash flow naman, these are activities. Operating activities are the principal revenue producing activities. So, the daily operations of the business is the operating activities. Okay? Other activities that are neither investing nor financing. Next would be the investing activities, acquisition and disposal of long-term assets and other investment not included in cash equivalents. Investing by excess na cash. So, where do you put that? Excess or surplus cash or other long-term assets. So, saan natin siya i-invest? Then, financing activities that results in changes in the size and composition of the contributed equity and liabilities of the entities. So, aside from the contributed or the capital given by the owners and other liabilities of the entity, where do you other activities where the company or where do you get additional capital? So, kung saan pa tayo makakakuha ng iba pang sources natin kung kinakailangan nating mag-produce ng other plant or machineries para sa company. Okay, information about the cash flow of an entity is useful in providing users of financial statement the basis to assess the ability of the entity to generate cash and cash equivalents. So this one, so you have the operating, investing, and financing. Operating, so cash flow from operating, ayan yung isa. Cash flow from investing, and cash flow from financing activities. Now, the cash flows from operating activities first. So as you know, cash inflows less cash outflows. So lahat ng mga naka-loob sa parentheses, ilaless natin doon sa mga sa labas. Okay? So you have here cash flows from operating activities. You have a positive 98,734. You could also check it in your calculators or in your Microsoft Excel. So next, from the investing activities, cash flow from investing activities, you have a negative 1 million. So this is the cash flow from investing activities, and the cash flows from financing activities. So 57,239, and add 1,250,000 less 300,000. So you will get this 1,007,239. So the net change in cash will be all this cash flow. So see 98,734, less 1 million, and then add the 1,007,239. Makukuha niyo po si 105,973. And then, assuming that you have a beginning cash of 1,060,000, now your cash ending, so pag-aadin lang po natin yung dalawa na yan, makakuha po tayo ng 1,165,973 na cash po ni Beppo Company for the year ending December 31. So, ayan po ang previews nating mga data na maaari nating magamit. Okay, next would be the steps on preparation of preparation of projected financial statements. So first, you have to forecast sales. You can use these external and external factors. As I mentioned earlier, you could use previous data, previous year's performance, and other marketing variables. So pwede rin po natin gamitin itong mga ito in forecasting sales. Step 2, ayan, cost of sales and operating expenses. Operation costs are mixtures of variable and fixed costs. Okay, I think, below an activity which we could use to easily identify this, or how we can forecast sales and operating expenses. Next would be forecast net income and retained earnings. To forecast net income, interest expense and income expense should also be considered using relevant interest and tax rates. Number 4, determine balance sheet items that will vary with sales or whose balances will be highly correlated with sales, such as cash, accounts receivable, inventories, accounts payable, and I think accrued expenses though. Next would be, I think this is the last one, determine payment schedule for loans. So, ano ba ang payment schedule natin? Quarterly, semi-annually, and check for other informations. So, computation interest expense, income tax payable, and retained earnings. Yan po yung mga kasama dyan. So, that ends the discussion for Module 5. So, we'll go now to the activities.